It's great to welcome to the program today Ido Sademan, who is the founder of Saga. Saga is a stable coin, which we will be talking about. But before we get to that, Ido, so great to talk to you. I have so many things to discuss, starting with Bitcoin's volatility. We see the price of Bitcoin fluctuate, and very often this is attributed by some people to either speculative actions by traders or to the lack of what's called an inherent value to Bitcoin. How do you interpret the price swings of a coin like Bitcoin? What does it mean? What is it caused by?
Sure. So first, thank you so much for having me. It's a sheer pleasure. Um, I think that definitely some of the price movements and the volatility of Bitcoin is attributed to speculation, but one must ask what is the root cause for such a speculation? And I think that the root cause is a fluctuating trust in Bitcoin as a currency. It's nothing new. I mean, when banks got these amazing machines, new technology that allows them to print bills, it didn't mean that anyone trusted that those bills have hold any intrinsic value of their own, and they started by being fully tethered to the dollar in the Federal Reserve basements, right, or the BIS basement for the rest of the world. So the idea that one can introduce a new currency and before it demonstrates the intrinsic value of trust and of network effect, it could be a stable relative to a basket of prices or whatever else, I think is rather naive. I think that what we're seeing is inherent to the Bitcoin model of being non-tethered to anything else and abruptly trying to amass trust. And this translates into volatility. It translates definitely into many speculation opportunities, and such opportunities are widely used.
So when people talk about the different uses of, for example, Bitcoin, Ethereum, the most widely transacted cryptocurrencies, sometimes we hear it's a good transactional currency, and people debate that, and then they talk about transaction times and transaction speeds, etc. Another common use that is cited is, well, it's a store of value. It's a place to store value, and of course when you see the volatility, that makes some people say, well, sure, you can store value, but it's a radically, it's a quickly changing amount of value that you are able to store. As you see it, are Bitcoin and Ethereum tools to store value, or is that not really a proper usage for them?
So I think that when it comes to Bitcoin, it might become a store of value because it is non-correlated to governmental currencies. It might become a store of value. I don't think it will become a medium of exchange, and as such, I don't think that we will see Bitcoin behave as money or be adopted by the market as money. But it is storing value effectively. I think that it is doing so with a very high level of liquidity, of volatility, sorry, which would not allow us to treat it as a store of value that is equivalent to a currency, right? One would assume that buying startup stocks in their seed round is storing value as well. But it is an extremely dangerous store of value and an extremely volatile one. And I think that when we refer to store of value from a monetary perspective as one of the three functions of a currency, I don't think that Bitcoin is there yet. It might become one. I don't see how Bitcoin is fitted to become a fully transactional currency.
So before we get into what Saga is doing, what do you think is primarily holding down adoption rates from the general public to use cryptocurrency?
Well, I think that first and foremost is to demonstrate what value they bring that other alternatives do not bring. And I think that each cryptocurrency needs to be tested or examined vis-a-vis the target it sets, the target problem it sets to solve. And I think that we're not solving well enough the problems that we as an industry were set to solve. If we add to that a user experience that is extremely cumbersome and problematic, regulatory lack of clarity that prevents major institutional players, from entering the game as well as preventing several projects from actually seeing the light of day. Then we are seeing what I believe is the main challenge of the industry. I don't think it is unsurmountable. That's why we're all here, I guess.
Yeah, so let's now talk about Saga. I've read that Saga works in tandem with the global economy. We talked about it as a stable coin. If people haven't heard of the project, how do you introduce them to it? What is the project? What's its goal?
So thanks for this introduction. It gives me a great opportunity to stress that Saga is actually not a stable coin. It is not designed to be stable. It is designed with stabilizing mechanism so that on its way to have an intrinsic value, this independent intrinsic value that we discussed in regard to Bitcoin, the way there is less volatile, and less bumpy. What Saga is designed, the problem that Saga is designed to solve is of issuing a complementary global currency. Complementary in the sense that we are not down the debate of whether fiat currencies are good or bad. For us, it is much simpler to state that fiat currencies are national, and as such, they were designed to meet the needs of national economies. But we are seeing an ever-growing scope of a global economy where the unit of account, the prices, are not determined by any single state or any single market. Consistent. When there is a new scope of an economy, it requires a new currency. To give an example and not leave it completely abstract, if you're a British citizen and in the past 3 years you've seen your currency lose about 25% of its value because of Brexit decisions, when you actually purchase within Britain, you're fine. You're protected because the British economy reacts to the same decisions as the British currency, as the British monetary policy reacts to. But when you go and buy on Amazon, the prices there have way less consideration to Her Majesty's Parliament's decisions. And here, when you are British but acting as this global citizen, exposed to global prices, you remain vulnerable. This is exactly the issue that Saga aims to resolve, to address, and not only for private customers. This is a thousandfold truer for global corporations that need to manage hedging floors and FX floors because they're serving customers from hundreds of countries and suppliers from hundreds of countries. I think that in the last few months, it is becoming evidently clearer that the world needs a global currency, and we're very happy to see that the debate is shifting from whether the world needs one to how should it be done. And I just end up this point with the reference to Christine Lagarde's last statement at the head of as the new head of the ECB, saying it is evident that global currencies and global payment system are manifestly needed, and if we don't address this need, then the industry addresses it.
So is there some way in which what Saga does emulates what governments do, but on a different scale in some sense?
Yes. So we are very much inspired by central banking tools, instruments that are meant to tame the changes, to tame the growth, and to tame the volatility with it. What we've done is that we implemented Saga as a variable fractional reserve, which means that Saga is a fully elastic supply of money. When one buys a Saga from the contract, Saga is created. When one sells it back to the contract, which is an Ethereum contract, it is burnt. And so the number of Sagas in the world is what our model uses as a vote of confidence in Saga. When there's a low amount of Saga in the world, it means that no one trusts us yet. And this is where the reserve ratio is 100%. We are 100% pegged to the SDR, which is the IMF basket of currencies. It's a basket of 5 currencies: dollar, euro, pound, yen, and renminbi, so that we have global exposure. But as the economy grows and there are more Sagas that are being created by the market, we're starting to lower our dependency on the reserve in favor of an intrinsic appreciation of the Saga token as the market appreciates it.
And
And
Ido, how is the decision made about the degree to which you are pegged and how you reduce it over time? What metric is used to decide that?
so the sole metric upon which it is based is the number of Sagas in circulation, as this number is being determined by the market. There is no intervention needed to lower or to increase the reserve rate, because trust can not only be gained, it can be lost as well. So if the economy shrinks, if more Sagas are being burned by the market than being bought by the market, then the reserve ratio goes back up, the price goes back down. And so by design, we're not stable. The price of Saga will change, but it will change very, very, very slowly because of the reserve model.
How do you ensure that there is liquidity in the SGA token at all times?
So the contract actually acts as the liquidity provider. When one buys Saga, all the proceeds of buying Saga are deposited in reserve. When one sells Saga, the proceeds from the same reserve are being liquidated in favor of buying back, of the contract buying back this Saga. And so the liquidity is being managed by the market operation itself. It's a self-regulating model of supply of money. When we launched Saga a week ago, there was zero money in reserve and zero Saga out there. The reserve is being populated by the creation of Saga itself.
How does Saga make money?
That's a great question. So first of all, as an operation, Saga doesn't make money. It is built as a company limited by guarantee in the UK, because that's the only structure that we have available. But we adopted a constitution and articles that prevent any distribution of dividend, that prevent any source of profit in Saga other than the maintenance of the protocol. This being said, when the Vertex and Lightspeeds and Mangrove of the world invested in Saga, because we did not do an ICO, we went to accredited investors, to if you want, old world VCs, not so old, but in crypto terms, in crypto age, and they didn't invest in us in an impact investment. They're in it to profit from the success of Saga. The way we did it is that we issued a second token called Saga Genesis, which is convertible to Saga at a ratio that changes as the economy grows. So they hold Saga Genesis SGN. Currently, if they send SGN to the contract, they'll get zero Saga because the economy is very small. As the economy will become bigger, they will get more and more Sagas per SGN, but we've capped them to 15 times, meaning one SGN at maximum. When Saga's economy would be worth $3 trillion, one SGN would be only worth 15 Sagas, because at no time we want the investors to control the economy. The control of the economy is left only to the currency holders, to the participants of the project.
So it seems that in a lot of the different systems you've put in place, there's a priority placed on not allowing any small group of people to hold too much power. So in the sense that you have an algorithm through which you will move away from that currency basket in terms of dictating the trajectory of the currency. You've put a limit on the amount that individual investors could put in. Is that a priority, to set up a system that doesn't depend on you personally being there, but that will sort of last beyond the individuals?
It is definitely a priority, but I would say even further more than that. It is a priority for us to have this system represent the holders of the currency. We may have many criticisms in regards to central banks, but central banks are eventually being appointed by governments that are being elected by citizens of nation states. And I think that we need to replicate this accountability, even if we replicate it in completely different measures. We need to replicate this accountability. Eventually, I'm currently leading Saga, but that would be up to elections of the currency holder in a year from now, because Saga is not mine. I think that if we want to provide services that are semi-civic services, right, then we need to adopt civic standards of non-ownership, of no centralized group of people that can take decisions without being accountable to the tokens economy.
Absolutely fascinating project. We've been speaking with Saga's founder, Ido Sademan. You can find out more about the project using the links down in the video description. Ido, such a pleasure talking to you today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for having me.